Having a bit of a terrible filming day today. I ran out of battery, ran out of memory, then it rained, so I've had to put my tent up. So I'll start this video here, but there is a few clips of me fitting the first eaves beam and how I got that fitted. I'll show them in a minute. The most important thing with this video is how I'm measuring up the lengths for the posts for this oak frame. So I've got the prep work today is getting some saddle stones fitted and then prepping for this post to butt up to the garage, which means I've got to get this ridge beam bolted to the side of the garage wall. So that's going to mean taking all this lot down, the gutter and all these brackets, getting a beam bolted up there, working out my levels from over there of where this beam is going to go. Yeah, and then setting this stone, and I can then cut this off later today, and then we're ready to fit all of these stones up here again, probably tomorrow morning. So got quite a big day ahead. A couple of cool things to show you. These are paid promotions of Trend support the channel, and these are Trend cutters. So I'm going to be using this plug cutter and bit set for mounting the ridge beam onto the wall, so it can hide the bolt fixings with this sort of 32mm 1.25" plug maker. That is a really nice bit of kit. And we're also going to be using the Hupar laser. They've not sent me this, but there is a link down below to their website where I'll earn a small commission if you use that link to buy any of their products. And it's a good bit of kit, 250 quid. Get a receiver with it as well. I think you can buy that separate. I'm not sure on the ins and outs of it, but a great bit of kit to be fair for the price. We'll just get that laser set up down the far end. So I'm just using the level there to measure up to the ridge beam, top of the ridge beam, and that's going to be my point which I follow this roof down the garage wall. So it's going to be the top of the ridge beam along the garage wall run. And using the outdoor device that beeps when it's on the line, I can find that line further down the garage roof and then mark it and check how level that garage is down the run. Right, so I've cut a bit of a shape on this end, and I'll just show you quickly on the drawing how it interacts at the top of the roof there. So looking up at the corner of the garage here, I've got that little detail that we've cut in the end of that beam, the ridge beam. So it's going to be bolted up into the brickwork. Something like that. And then this end rafter is going to be obviously notched over that beam, and we've got a barge board that will cover the end of that ridge beam, so it should look pretty smooth this end. This housing detail is obviously going to move up. Now we've moved this from an aesthetics point of view, we've moved this ridge beam higher. Originally it was sat down a bit and these beams were sort of notched over them. Now we've changed it so that it's moved up so everything's flush at the top, and the boarding on the underside of the roof is going to run flush, and the customer wants this notching on every rafter so that it sits in and is nice and secure. You're not just relying on a straight cut with a couple of nails through it. Everyone's going to have a notched housing that it sits in, so a little bit more work, but if we make a jig for the router, it shouldn't be too bad. But yeah, that's what we're doing today. So I've got to ascertain that height, which I've done. Now just find out the distance from the end of the wall here to where this beam's going to finish, and then I can set that on the wall and we can get that one up in place. Just put these blocks on as a bit of a resting point. They're a couple of mil below level line. I can use packers then to set that ridge beam perfectly level. So now I'm just setting out the post positions from that corner post. I've only got a 5 metre tape measure, so I'm just going to the 5 metres and then working my way along. Then once I've got my final mark, just checking it back with a laser pen so that I know I'm in a pretty good, accurate ballpark place. Get that little red dot on the line. And set my little pulse thing down the other end. Just keep turning it till it beeps. Got a perfect straight line between here and that other post now. What it also gives me is a perpendicular line here, so I know where this post position is. I can transfer that over to that wall. Let's give this incredibly nice drill bit its first outing. drilling these through with an 8mm, so I can use a concrete screw. Then we'll replace the concrete screws later on with some hammer through, like resin fixing, once everything's in the right spot. Sure you're right? Yep. Okay. Tilt yours out a bit. Alright? Yeah. It doesn't look like it should be that heavy.
No, it doesn't.
So yeah, just put them blocks on a little bit lower and it gives you wiggle room to set it level. The worst thing in the world is when you screw a block on like that to rest the beam on level and it's like a few mil too high, because you can't do anything with it other than cut it down. So yeah, always go a bit low and pack it up to suit. Beautiful. Well, that's all about. Oh my God. Just managed to squeeze the gutters back on them brackets without having to screw into that oak beam, so it should keep it nice and protected. Right, looks like it's going to rain in half an hour, so I think I'll get this saddle stone set. I've just managed to set these two saddle stones, set them a perimeter gap from these blues. It's not quite square with the building, that's due to these, but I didn't want to go, so I think it's about 8mm different from square. I didn't want to do like a 15mm gap to the blues there and an 8mm there. It would just look a bit weird, so gone with what visually is going to look right across this bit of paving here. So I've set them, they're nice and level to each other, just below the surface of the finish of the floor, like the patio area, so they should be encapsulated once it's been tiled around, so they shouldn't go anywhere. But yeah, the process of getting the heights for these posts is using the laser. I've checked, it's a good comparison between the Hupar and the Hilti. I've got two Hupars and a couple of Hilti levels, just been checking them. There's about 3mm difference between the two, between all four, across this 13 metre run, so it's not too bad at all really. I'm happy with 3mm across 13 metres. But the process for measuring these up, I've got all my measurements here. It's much like my measurement video I did on the wardrobe. So you dotted line through the middle here, you want to set your laser up so that it hits clear space between whatever it is that you want to measure, so all the points hit clear space. Now we've got a rise on the concrete here, so I've got to set this laser level high enough so that it doesn't run into the floor over there. I want it sort of to land through that post over there, which it just does at this position. So I've got my dotted line on, and I've got all my points that I want to measure that are important for my drawing. I'll quickly show you what we're looking to take the measurements of so that you understand what we're trying to achieve here. So I've got this post that I cut the other day in the barn there in the workshop. I need to cut it off to length referencing from this beam here. I also need to cut this corner post off to length, yeah, again referencing the beam that runs along the front, and that all runs level with the beam we've got at the end of the building here that's already existing, that we can already see. So I'm referencing off this beam, and I need to get the length of this post, so, and also the length of this post at the bottom cut, and the position of this housing up here for where it notches around this ridge beam that's bolted to the garage wall. So these are my points of reference. So that's my ridge beam, it's 223mm tall, I know that. That's the beam down there that's running horizontally, and I've put an arrow to the underside of it, and these are my two saddle stones. These are set level because I've already done them. So got my laser line there. Now these are the measurements off the Hupar, and they are the measurements off the Hilti, so I'll just double check myself to make sure the laser's not massively out. You can even do this outside in broad daylight with the use of the little pulse reader, you get it to mark a line on the wall, and then you can measure from the line just like a normal level line. Hope that was slightly interesting. Measurements are the key to better joinery. So if you want to make better drawings and better joinery that you know is going to fit, then taking really accurate measurements is absolutely key to that. I did a video on taking measurements of a wardrobe, and I'll link that down below. It's really important, and if you want to guarantee something's fits, that's a really good way to do it, using a couple of these lasers to get yourself set up to take them really accurate measurements. I've just concrete screwed that in place for now, and then you go round afterwards when everything's correct, and I'll bolt that all to the wall nice and tightly. It's loaded up for tomorrow, save a bit of time in the morning, should have a good day tomorrow. It's like a giant game of Tetris.